This is a recorded presentation from our WordPress Meetup for WordPress St. Petersburg at the Tech Garage. Please allow me to introduce Jim True for his presentation of what to look for in a host, choosing a WordPress host Q&A. Welcome. You're here tonight for what to look for in a host, choosing a WordPress host Q&A. I am Jim True. I am the support lead and community manager at the Pods framework. It is a content development framework for WordPress. Their website is pods.io, and Twitter handle is at Pods Framework. I'm Jim True. I'm at jimtrue.com and at Jim True. Okay, who here has raised a baby? Come on, I know there's more than 3 people that have had a baby. Nope? Wow, okay. Alrighty then. Well, from your theoretical knowledge, what are some things a baby needs? They need a name, a birth certificate. Basically, as soon as a baby's born, they get a birth certificate. It says who their parents are, where they were born, the time they were born, who the doctor was, etc. It's basically identifiable information about that child, or offspring, or whatever you want to call it. They also get an ID. I don't know when they get a social security number, but at some point in time, after they're born, they get a social security number. I guess at some point in time, we're probably going to, tattoo them as soon as they come out of the womb with a barcode, and then they will have an ID from that. So we'll see if that happens. There we go. They also get an address at some point in time, hopefully, a place to receive mail and know where to drop that child back off if they're lost. So they have a home, hopefully, a shelter and a place to grow safely. They have health. I had food there, but basically it was like food and nourishment, a balanced diet, education, things to help them grow. And hopefully they have support, medical attention, and protection. So your website is kind of like your baby. And this little guy is Lucas the Spider. Hopefully that doesn't trigger any spider, spiderophobias or anything. He's so adorable. So, things your baby web needs. It needs a name. In this case, like a domain name. Your lucasspider.com. It needs an ID. In the cases of the web, that means an IP address. It's a place to find it out there on the web. It needs an address, which is Nameservers and DNS. We'll talk about this one, so don't freak out on those horrible words. It needs a home, a web host. That web host needs to provide health to it, a high-speed network, a web server, a database. And it needs support, 24/7 support, backups, and virus protection. I guess we could back up our children, but that would be kind of weird, wouldn't it? So, alrighty, we'll get started on there we go. I keep pointing at the wrong place. I'm not pointing over there, I'm pointing over here. We'll start with domain name registration. I've got lucasspider.org, and of course he tells you that's not my address. Your domain name should reflect your business, your personal name, or your brand name. And it has to be unique. Domain names are unique across the entire domain name registration system that every single person in the entire world uses. So imagine like the .coms, the .coms, the .nets, and the .orgs. Those 3 little extensions ran out a long time ago. .edu is specifically limited to schools. .gov is specifically limited to only government businesses. There are specific country code ones, like .it for Italy, .es for España, that sort of thing. But there are also several different little name extensions like .name, .business, .cafe, etc.
.design.
.design. Yeah, they're coming up with a lot more of them to help with that uniqueness quality. Your domain name registration is a year-to-year registration. Renewal terms can be longer than that, but realize that if you're going to be building a website and you have to have a domain name to have a website, you've got to keep control of that. So if you lose it, if it renews every year, hopefully whoever you register it with automatically does automatic renewals, or has some kind of renewal protection. We'll be talking about that too. But it will keep it so that you don't lose that name, because it's not like a child. Well, it could be identity theft. It could be a little bit like that. Prices vary on domain name registration. They can run anywhere from like $9.99 to about $25 $25 a year annually. Prices for the premium domain extensions can run much, much, much more. And I'm not kidding with that one. Some of those can actually run in the $85 a year. So when you're trying to look for names, there's the default best way to do name searches is Whois. It's been around since the internet's been around, and it tracks names, it tracks the expiration dates, it tracks who the person is that registered it and their contacts. And the official website is whois.icann.org. If you do whois.anything else, it's not them. So some other search ones are instant domain name search and name mesh. Both of those actually help you come up with names. So like if you've got these slides are going to be on the web, so you don't have to go crazy writing stuff down, but both of these two websites help you create names. So like if you know you're creating a business and you can't get thatexactbusiness.com, you can type in like keywords about that business and it'll come up with suggestions for you. They're pretty helpful. Almost all website hosts, yes?
I was just going to say, I found a really useful one that anybody wants to, if you're looking for a client or yourself, and you want to make sure that all the social media, or at least the platforms that you care about,
right,
are available. It's name.chk, name.check, essentially.
Name.check, okay.
Yes. And you put in at the top whatever you want it to be, Joe's Cafe, and it will show you, first of all, is the .com available, the .net, the .org, whatever it is you want, but is the Facebook page available?
Nice.
Is the
Twitter,
the Instagram, etc.
Very cool.
And if you're lazy, you can give them $99 and they'll register all the platforms.
What? They'll even do the platforms for you?
And they'll send you back the registry information.
Wow.
Or it just shows you, all those things are available, and then you can go in and get them all yourself before somebody else gets Joe's Cafe.
Yeah. So name.check?
It's name.chk.
CHK, okay, gotcha. Okay. So, interesting, yeah. I'd have to check that one out.
Like pretty much all the extensions that you can think of are up there at the top too.
Nice, very nice. Thank you.
Yeah, because I'm lazy.
I don't blame you.
Out quick.
Could totally get that one. Almost every single web host out there, except for a couple, provide some form of domain name registration and Whois searching. I've noticed, and I think you had talked about that one before, that GoDaddy and some of the others, that if you search for a name and then the next time you look for it in a couple of days, it'll be tagged like it's for sale. Almost like they take the search results and they use them they go out and snag those real fast to make sure that you have to pay extra for it. So that's called brokering.
Or they love to retarget me like, this is a great fit for you. It's like, I know, I searched for it 2 days ago.
Gotta love that. The requirement is that the requirement for all domain name registers is they have to have name services as part of this. They have to have a way to point that name that you just registered to where you're going to host it at. And we'll be talking about name services. It's not as complicated as it sounds. And beware the upsell and the name brokers. GoDaddy does a lot of upsells, but they're pretty easy to ignore. They're part of the interface that when you register a name, they will immediately ask you, oh, you want hosting? If you pay for your website domain for 3 years, we'll give you hosting for a year. Come on. That kind of thing. They love the upsell. And the name brokers are the fake Whois accounts. It's whois.net. It's whois. A couple of the other names behind them. What they do is they pretend to be a Whois surface, and they're reading Whois for that official name registration. But if you go to that whois.icann.org, it really breaks it down. It shows you who the contacts are, because it's just like in a birth certificate. It's who the administrative contact is, which is the person who actually owns the domain. It shows you who the billing contact is, the person who actually paid for it. And it shows you who the tech contact is, which is the person usually who is managing it on the website or connecting the website stuff up. They all three can be the same name, and they all three can be blocked behind privacy as well.
Might say something at this point. I've done this for 25 years, since the thing. Don't put your freaking phone number down.
No, God, no. God, no.
Don't do that. I learned the hard way.
Yeah, and preferably if you can, don't use that address, don't use a stamp, don't use a different email address, or do the privacy blocking.
Yeah.
Because the minute you put, it's kind of like when you register for a business in Florida, the minute after you register for a business in Florida, you're going to get 18,000 flyers for credit card services. Just going to happen. And then at renewal time, you will get 18,000. Oh my God, you got to follow your minutes or you're going to get charged $1 million, blah, 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 blah. Let us do your minutes for your business.
You have to have a phone number.
Yeah, you do. You have to put a phone number in.
Google Voice.
Yeah, use a Google Voice number. They're still available. Yeah, do that kind of a method. Smart. Thank you for that, for reminding that one. Yeah, the fake whois are typically there to, they show the information from whois, but they're really there for upselling domain name services. So your top 5 name registrars, and this is from WP Beginner. Believe it or not, WP Beginner, there's 3 pages that they host on their site that they constantly update. And all 3 of these were just updated August 2nd with new information. So they've gone through and reviewed and done new renewals and stuff. They recommend GoDaddy. I still do most of my domain name registration through GoDaddy. Actually, almost all of it. Because they're cheap and they have a pretty good interface for it and they're pretty easy to work with. They also recommend Bluehost. Both of these have add-ons to like privacy protection, domain name blocking so that you can lock it so that it will automatically, it can't be flipped over to someone else without you actually saying so. There's a lot of stuff that's way too technical to get into about transferring domain names, but we're going to go into this in just a bit too. But anyway, Bluehost, HostGator, Namecheap is just domain names. They don't do hosting at all, but they do offer free domain privacy, and domain.com, which offers domain privacy, bulk registration, and transfers. And they also recommended to buy domains for broker house selling premium domain names. I think I have a note on here. Let me make sure. Nope, I don't. I'm going to go and talk about it then before I go into that slide. When you're registering your domain name, that needs to be you. If you're doing this for you or you're hiring someone to do your website, you need to be in control of your domain name, and you do not need to let it get out of your hands. It needs to stay with you. It's okay if your web developer helps you do it, because there's questions to ask. You know what I'm talking about. The domain name needs to be owned by the person who is the business, because you lose it, or if it's like stuck in a web developer and he gets hit by a bus, you've got no way to get that out of there, not without a lot of work, not unless you're listed as one of those contacts on it. So that's an important thing. And we'll keep moving on from there. Can we get to the slides? All right. So the IP and address is kind of like the internet's GPS or a post office. It helps you get from like tampabay.org to 104.2828.88. And that little screen there, I just did a ping of tampabay.org, and you can see the IP address. No one is ever going to remember your IP address. That's why domain name services exist, to connect that concept of the name to the IP address. And this is kind of how it works. We've got the YouTube website for Lucas the Spider, and he tells you that's where he lives. That first part there, the YouTube, that's what is being used by domain name services. You take just the youtube.com, not the www, not the HTTPS, and not anything beyond it. And that goes over to Name Services, DNS servers. They look up youtube.com on their little chart, and they find its IP address, and then they ship the whole thing over to the host. And hit the button right. The host for YouTube looks up the rest of the address, everything at the end of the side, and it looks inside its servers and finds out how to send that to Lucas. Pretty straightforward. So, yeah.
Is the www obsolete, or is that not?
It is optional. It is one of those kind of things that it's a Google Analytics thing. We'll talk about that one at the questions. Bring that one back up again at the questions, because it's kind of a hard one to answer.
Is it like implied anymore?
I'm sorry?
Is it implied? Like if you don't type it?
It's just easier on your users that they don't have to type the www. So you don't have to anyway, typically. You never have to use it. That's kind of the question about it. It's like, but do you do it with Google and everything else?
Use it, why do you need it?
Exactly. It used to be required because the way things were before, it was like email.name, files.name, ftp.name, that kind of thing. And every bit of that was registered a specific way. The www, typically with your name services, the www and anything or just the name by itself will automatically go to your web server. Okay, name servers, what you need to know. Here it comes. Your host should give you the names of their name servers to change at your domain registration, since name servers are configured with the domain name. So your domain name is where you put in the address for the name servers. Every host has one. Almost every single host has one, except for very funny ones like WP Engine. WP Engine doesn't use domain name servers. They use a CNAME registration like lucasthespider.wpengine.com, and so you have to use another service called Cloudflare, which is free. I actually have switched to using Cloudflare for all of my domain name services because your domain name services record, and I'm not going to go into it here because it's really technical, has like all the places your email needs to go, because everything attached to your domain name, like email, like file services, like if you have 7 websites in front of, what was your name again? Nichelle. So let's say you've got Nichelle.com, but you've got shop.nichelle.com, and you've got books.nichelle.com, and you've got this other site over here that's like, my bio, and you've got another one over here called the cafe, and you've named them all that way, like the little word in front. All of those are part of domain name services. Typically, they're all pointing to the same thing, but they may not be. So, and that's kind of the thing. So mail.nichelle.com could be going to Google Apps. And that's why I use Cloudflare, because you can pretty much manage all of that in one clean, specific place. And I got very tired of trying to manage that exact same thing in 17 different hosting companies. And it was driving me crazy. Most hosts know how to help you configure your name services, so don't sweat it. Just ask for help. That's what they're there for. Okay. Web hosting. There are 3 primary types. They are shared, VPS, or dedicated. There are a lot more than that, but we're not going to go into detail on any of those. We're just going to talk about the standard ones. Shared is like your community swimming pool. Everybody's in there. They're all, looking very happy, all our little web servers. Well, you've also got to watch out for splash protection when the really big ones get in there. Somebody in your website or in the web community pool is gigantic, and they jump in and kablah, and they knock all the little kids out. You also have to do when everybody pees in the pool. So it's cheap, but you're paying for it. Another good analogy is like you're traveling through Europe and you could stay at a hostel, which means you got the bunk beds and the smelly feet and the shared bathrooms. So, it's cheap, but you got to deal with all that crap at the same time.
And there might be bed bugs.
There might be bed bugs, that's true. So with the VPS, you're talking about a section swimming pool. Everybody has their own little tiny square. All the little kids are protected. Everybody's like, there's even like 2 little spaces left open. If some of those grow really big, they just basically reapportion the server and move some of those other people over to another virtual private server. What they basically are is, it's a huge web server that is pretending to be multiple little servers, but they're all completely separated, so they don't really step on each other. It's a cheaper way to handle dedicated servers without actually paying for a dedicated server. They can easily accommodate growth. If you were thinking about them from that traveling in Europe concept again, it's staying at a hotel with concierge service. You've got your own little room, your own little bathroom, but you're still in the hotel. So if the hotel burns down, you still have to, evacuate. And then you've got the dedicated hosting. That's a private pool. God, he looks lonely, doesn't he? Well, he can grow as big as he wants to. No one bugs him, but it's incredibly expensive to do this. This would, again, the traveling through Europe concept, this would be having a private villa with your own staff, your own little private driveway up to it. It's going to cost you a lot of money, but you get what you pay for. So this is all the technicals. Huh?
Tell me about Cloud.
Which one?
Cloud.
Cloud?
Okay.
Gonna have to talk that about at the Q&A portion, because I have absolutely no words on that one. I've never used it. So I can't really help you there. So we can do some lookups. Some other folks may have some ideas, but yeah, I don't know anything at all about it. Other than I know what Cloud DNS is and I know how it works. Basically, the server that you're working on, they make multiple copies of your stuff and they copy it off at different data centers so that if this data center goes down, you're immediately repointed over to this one. And that's what Domain Name Services also helps with, because Cloudflare does this. Cloudflare creates multiple copies of your site, caches it on multiple data centers, so that if this data center goes down, or if it loses connectivity to your site for 15 minutes, it'll still present content. It'll just be cached from their services. So these are all the tech stuff that you need to think about when you're looking at hosts. They need to have good network connectivity and fast hardware, because they want to deliver your website fast. And you want to make sure that the connection speeds between are really quick. You want to have a strong, stable database. WordPress requires a minimum of MySQL 5.6. I think that's right. Or a MariaDB of 10.0. Strong, stable web servers, Apache or Nginx. There are some Windows servers, but they're not as common for WordPress. Apache and Nginx are the two that are pretty much the standard. You need a strong, stable programming and scripting environment for WordPress to even be able to run, which means you need PHP 7.2. You can go back as far as 5.6, but honestly, with PHP, as long as it's been tested with WordPress, and your hosting company offers it, use the most recent version. And it should be very easy to switch. It's like a thing where they basically can click a switch and automatically your server's running the new language, or the new version. Here's all the more technical stuff. The interface is going to be a client dashboard. They're going to have cPanel. I put UGG there because I can't stand cPanel. You want to have access to the database through PHPMyAdmin or other database developer tools. You want to have SSH, which is like a secure socket layer way to connect in. All of this is technical crap. If you're not going to be doing this, don't worry about it. This is not something you need to worry about. But typically your web hosting company should provide this, if they are that kind of a web hosting company that tends to work with WordPress people, because you've got to get your files onto their server, and you've got to be able to connect to their database to look at your database sometimes for troubleshooting. The other stuff is SFTP and FTP and Git. Very few people actually offer Git access, but some do. I got one more there. Oh yeah. This is a big one for me, or at least this is a requirement I always have when hosting, is that there should be an ability to have, when you pay for hosting, I should be able to also have a staging environment, which means that I can take my live website, duplicate it to this place called staging, and that's the one I work on. And then I should be able to copy my staging over my production. Because when you're doing upgrades, when you're testing any new plugins, when you're even like designing a new site, you want to be able to go, okay, I'm going to stop any content changes here, and I'm just going to work on the stuff here, test it. If it works, yep, boom, copy it back over. Support, backups, and uptime. There is no reason in this current environment right now that a hosting company cannot provide daily backups for you. And they should also have a very well documented backup retention. If your host, even a shared host, the community swimming pool, there's no reason they can't be doing daily backups. They have the hardware, they easily have the hardware for it. Find out their backup policy, find out their backup retention policy. You cannot, when your website goes down, you got to get it back. And anytime you break your website, that is the fastest way to get back to live, is to restore from backup. So that's one thing you definitely need to make sure happens. I personally like one-click backup and restore on demand, where I can actually manage that myself. Like before I go in and upgrade my WordPress, before I go in and upgrade a plugin, one button, backup. I break it, restore, sorry. Should be that simple. Your backup has to include files and database, and they have to be separate. They should not be a restore that is both at the same time. You should be able to have your files and your database completely separate. You can actually manage these yourself with the plugin called Updraft, Backup Buddy. There are other methods. We had to talk how many months was that ago with that? Probably 3 or 4.
At least 3.
Yeah, at least 3 or 4. We did a talk on databases and migrations, oh my, or something, and it's in our YouTube channel background, and it talks about different methods of backing up and migrating your websites. If your host, for whatever reason that you're on right now, doesn't offer letting you have control over your backups and stuff, check out that site, that particular video. Okay, uptime guarantees. They should try to guarantee some kind of an uptime, and they should have reporting and statistics for it so that you have information on it. Or they should, like I said, they should at least have reporting on their uptime connectivity, but they should try to give you a guarantee if possible. Most hosts now really sell their product by their uptime, and that's a big one. You can also manage your own uptime with, come on, little guy, go back. Come on. Here. I think my battery might be dying. You can actually do your own uptime monitoring through uptime.com. Basically, you type in the website address and you tell it what kind of ways you want to be notified, whether text or whatever, and it will do it. I use it for pretty much any host, any websites that I care about. I get a Twitter direct message when my websites go down, and I get a Twitter direct message when they go back up again. And an email. Okay, support. Human IT staff. Artificial intelligence is not enough. You want a human IT staff that's going to be performing support at your hosting company. That means they should have multiple contact methods, email, live chat, and phone. Most hosting company for shared will probably not allow you to have phone, but most of them will do email and live chat. And live chat is honestly quite good. Or should be. Now, this is coverage for you guys, 24/7, 365. Do I care about that? Is my business that important? Join on holidays. Sometimes it matters. I use WP Engine, and I contacted them on 4th of July with like about 7 technical questions. He was having barbecue, and we sat there and chatted about it for about an hour and a half. It was awesome. It was, I don't know. Responsiveness and knowledge. This is the thing that you want to test with their IT staff. Do they know WordPress? Do they know databases? Do they understand at a very high technical level what they're doing? If you contact the pre-sale support staff and they don't know anything about WordPress, don't even think about putting your host on that. Don't choose that as a host. This is how I test them too. Friendliness matters. Check out their pre-sale support. Now, granted, pre-sale support is all about selling to you, but more than likely, most pre-sale support do have quite a bit of tech support knowledge. So when that little bloop pops up on their website to ask them questions, ask them questions. See how friendly they are. See how knowledgeable they are. See if they don't know the answer, if they're willing to go get a tech guy and get them on the thing really quick for you. Because that's all about how well they communicate with their own people and how well they communicate with you. It's a really good way to test. Okay, manage WordPress hosting. They handle all the WordPress upgrades, not your plugins unless there are issues, but they handle all the other WordPress upgrades for you. They're a special kind of hosting. I like them personally because I don't want to have to deal with all the frickin' FTP and SFTP and SSH and Git and database crap. I don't want to deal with any of that. I've done it in my entire life. I do not want to deal with it anymore. And I love managed WordPress hosting because they take care of that for you. Typically, they're on VPS or dedicated servers. Most of them are on VPS. You're never, ever, with managed WordPress hosting, you will probably never, ever be in the community pool, hopefully. And if you are, then they're not really doing managed WordPress hosting. They usually have one-click staging copies. So that means I'm sitting there like when I took over our Tampa Bay WordPress website and I knew I was going to redesign it because we were getting ready to do a lot of stuff, I logged in to WP Engine. I clicked one button. 2 minutes later, I had a staging copy. I went in there and I could log right in and I could like completely redesign the thing, and I was like, oh my God, this is great. I spent like 4 hours doing the whole new redesign, the whole bit, getting it all in place. And then I clicked one button and pushed it over the top of production, and it was done. And I was like, wow. And with pods, we're on WP Engine. I stupidly upgraded one plugin that we're not supposed to upgrade. and broke the site. And it's huge. I mean, our site gets like 10,000, 15,000 hits a day. I don't know, it's ridiculous. And I hit one plugin in that broke the entire site. Well, luckily, I had done a one-click backup beforehand, and I knew I didn't do anything with the database, so I just did a click back restore with the files, and boom, 3 seconds later we were back. That's awesome. That makes you God, especially to your clients. So, you know, one-click staging copies, one-click staging production, one-click backups, one-click restores. Tell you, it's wonderful. One-click WordPress installs. That should happen anyway. But typically, managed WordPress hostings will not give you email. They won't do domain registration or anything else. They focus solely on WordPress. The hosting companies that do managed WordPress hosting that do all the other stuff, unless they have a very dedicated group that just handles managed WordPress hosting, I would not even consider them. And unfortunately, we're going to be going to the WP Beginner thing, and they're going to recommend 3 hosting companies that do shared hosting. And I don't agree with them. WP Engine is the best managed WordPress host out there, but they're also incredibly expensive. So we're going to get back on our little stuff now. Required recommendations. These are the bare minimums, and these are from WordPress.org about requirements. It's PHP 7.2, MySQL 5.6, or MariaDB 10.0 plus. HTTPS support is critical. Free SSL. Absolutely don't even think about a host nowadays unless they're giving you a free secured socket layer certificate for your website. That means it's going to have the big green lock up there that says secure, because now in July, Chrome is immediately kicking everybody off. Says, oh, this site's not secure. Don't look. You know, they're making it where you have to have it, and it makes sense nowadays. They're actually ridiculously easy to configure. I did 6 of them this past weekend with one plugin from WordPress called Really Simple SSL. They suggested WordPress HTTPS support or something. Don't use that one. Use the Really Simple, Really Simple SSL. It did everything perfectly, instantly, quickly, and it was a no-brainer.
You said the plugin's free?
Yeah, free. So, and they have a premium version too, but Really Simple SSL. Free backups. If not user-generated, should be daily and include your files and database. That's a minimum, required minimum. Support, phone, email, live chat, minimum. No penalties for no penalties for changing hosts, and no hidden fees. Look at that contract when you're signing up your hosting agreement. Make sure there are no add-ons. Like a good one is like GoDaddy. You sign up and you get a free domain registration, and your hosting is such and such a month or so much for the year, and then the renewal date hits and suddenly it goes to 150 and you were paying 60. You know, read that fine print. Make sure that the discount they're offering stays all the way through, or at least gives you enough time to get out of it. That's that kind of stuff. Some domain name registrars will charge you a penalty for moving domain name registrars. ICANN by itself, ICANN, requires you to stay at the hosting place you registered at for 60 days no matter what. The first time you register a host, you've got to stay there for 60 days. That's to get all of the database stuff and all the records out there. But it should not cost you anything to transfer your domain name except for the new registration at whoever new is going to be taking over your registration. But if you still own it, yeah, it's one of those kind of things. What's the best WordPress host for you? WPBeginner.com WordPress hosting. They have this fun little wizard on that page that looks just like that actually walks you through a little quiz and will recommend a host based on the questions you answer. And that's wpbeginner.com/WordPress-hosting. Top 5 WordPress hosts according to WP Beginner: Bluehost, HostGator, SiteGround, InMotion, and DreamHost. They give you the cost per month. They tell you which one of those offers a free domain as part of the registration or part of the hosting. Which ones give you free SSL. This is actually no longer true. HostGator, as of July, now gives you free SSL. I know because I have a client on them, and we had to wait until they gave it to us. And the strange thing is that it was there since May, but they didn't tell anybody. Yeah, I have a problem with that. They've got Bluehost up there first. I don't agree at all. I used to do. I had my stuff on them before. My site would go down. I'd get notified instantly because of Uptime report. I'd immediately hop onto their live chat and say, "Hey, my servers are down," and they'd be working and they'd start looking at stuff. Say, "Okay, we've got you back now." What happened? Oh, we've got you back now. Silence. Crickets. That's how I felt. It's like, tell me what happened. If you made a mistake, if you upgraded something, what happened? Why did the sites go down? Did you have a server go down? Did you lose domain name service? Did you have a DDoS attack? What? Just tell me.
They ran out of coffee.
Something. I don't know.
I just had that same problem last week.
Yeah.
I registered my domain no longer, but for years, to GoDaddy. And I was using Bluehost.
Yeah, Bluehost.
GoDaddy went back and repointed it at itself.
What? Wow.
Apparently, according to the human I talked to, that's been going on.
Oh, so they'll just switch the name servers back? Ugh, that's horrible. That's a horrible thought. One of my clients has her hosting at HostGator. They're not bad, but they're not great either. I've had a really hard time getting to talk to anyone human, or in live chat or otherwise, so I don't like them. SiteGround's weird. A lot of people recommend them. I had them for a year and a half. They're a very technical host. What I find is that my first question out to support would probably go through first level, and they'd give like a fluff answer instead of actually immediately saying, this is over my head, I need to push it up to second level. And that bothered me a lot. I don't like fluff answers. I want it to go to where it needs to go, especially when the person coming in with the question is incredibly technical. Don't give me, it's aluminum foil or something. I don't know. But yeah. Test your
SiteGround, and I just switched off from SiteGround to InMotion hosting because they changed their prices, like raised their prices by $5 a month. Like from the basic their hosting was $15 per month, and now it's $20 per month. So that's why.
Oh, they like bumped up that much?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, WP Engine recently did a huge price increase as well. Or like they changed their premium plan, which had 10 sites or something, to something else. They're still grandfathering in everybody they had 10, but I don't like it. Yeah. I have a contract. I don't like it when my contract changes, damn it.
Quick question. What is one-click WP, I guess?
That means you hit a button and the WordPress is automatically installed for you.
Oh, and where?
On your hosting server.
Okay.
Yeah. So everybody offers that. That's like the most stupid thing out there on the collar. Yeah. But I mean, most hosting companies will give you WordPress automatically. It's silly if they don't. Yep.
You must discuss GoDaddy hosting if you're.
We said top 5 WordPress
No,
hosts.
yes. This is so common, you got to cover why not to go there.
Okay. Guys, you're side talking.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. Sorry, I don't like that. GoDaddy. Oh, go ahead.
Another question. So the WordPress host is different from your the other host.
Your domain name registration and your WordPress host are completely different usually. They can be the same.
Okay.
So you can register your domain with your hosting company, like Bluehost, GoDaddy, all of those do offer that. But I typically do not register my host and my domain at the same place.
Oh, okay. So you could register.
Of course you can, yeah.
Hosting services.
Yeah, but look at it this way. Let's say you're at a hosting company and you suddenly decide that this hosting company does not have good support. I thought they did, but they don't. I want to move. Suddenly, your domain name is also stuck with them because it was free with them. And now you've got to go find another host and pay your fee again with your domain name at the new host. It gets really tedious.
There are, like, you wouldn't have to use WordPress on one of these hosts, right?
No, Typically, domain name registration, most of these guys that are listed as being, they offer free domains with it. That means they are an ICANN registered host, which means they can actually put names into the name registration database. It's big, but I don't use them.
Well, so I think what I'm confused is there are different types of hosts. There's a domain name host.
No, it's a domain name registrar and a website and a WordPress host.
Okay.
Those are two completely different things. Some hosts do them together.
Okay, so the WordPress host, on any host, you don't have to have WordPress. But since we're WordPress, and these guys.
We're talking about WordPress hosting, so yes, if you're looking for a WordPress host, you want a WordPress host.
Sure.
Yeah, but those are not the same things as domain registrars. Domain registrars is a completely different side of their business. That's what I mean. So like, if you're going, yes, they offer free hosting and free domain names, but realize that that's not a free domain name. They're just rolling it into the price of their free offer to get you to buy their hosting. You're going to have to pay for that domain name at some point. They'll eat it as long as you stay with them as your WordPress host. But if you suddenly decide to move elsewhere, you have that weird little period where you're going to have to move your domain name to another registrar. That's why I always register my domain names separately from my hosting. Because I don't like that. I don't like being tied into that. I need to be able to move my host, and I don't have to go through the whole process of, okay, so I'm now killing my contract here. So I now have to transfer my domain name to another, oops, sorry, too far. I now have to transfer my domain name to another host or to another registrar, and that's going to take you at least a week minimum, possibly 2 weeks, just to transfer the domain name. It's like trying to replace a birth certificate or trying to replace an ID or a passport. Think of it like that. You don't want to keep your domain name, your birth certificate, your passport. Well, I mean, you do want to keep it in the house, but you want to have another copy of it someplace else. Your house and the two of them don't go together.
Okay, so when you have your host, you first log into your host. There's no WordPress on it. You have a button to click and it will install WordPress.
Yeah, typically when you buy your hosting plan, that's part of it is the WordPress install,
Okay,
and they'll
so
take care of it.
You have to specify that you want WordPress when you.
Yeah, when you buy a hosting plan, you give them a domain name, which you should already have, or you register it through them. That's one of the first questions they ask is, do I have a domain name? You pump it in, and okay, that name doesn't exist. Do you want to register it? That's what most of these hosts will do for you. And then they'll start creating the installation, they'll do the registration part for you, and they'll push it all down there, and it looks so nice and easy and simple, and you go, oh yeah, that's wonderful. But then you don't like that host anymore, and you want to move your website someplace else. And suddenly you've got 3-4 weeks before you can move it because of the whole domain name registration at that host. Because they own your name now, and they're not going to let go of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Not easily.
Okay.
Okay, cool. All right. Did I answer your question?
Well, that wasn't really what confused me.
Okay. It is confusing because this is one of the things that comes up a lot with new folks because they just don't get this part.
Yeah, well, I think every place I've read has recommended a different registration from the host.
Yeah, and you should.
So you agree with that?
I totally agree with that because it's simpler for you in the long run. Because your name registration is in one place and you own that. You can easily move a host without a question.
Yeah, well, I think this was a stupid question, but I kind of assumed if you had that set up, the WordPress.org, that the software, the WordPress software would live on your local computer.
No, that's not it either. That WordPress.org software that could be on your local computer also has to be installed on the host.
Okay.
Yeah. So WordPress.
Client server type situation.
Kind of. Client as in like you log into the web and that's how you actually manage the site. Well, we're going to be doing another talk probably at some point in time about how to safely manage your websites. And we'll talk about the whole idea between local and web and stuff like that. Okay?
Okay.
What's the best managed host for you? They also have that. WP Beginner does. It's managed WordPress hosting. And they'll actually ask you questions and you can fill that out and get a good recommendation from them. Their top 5 managed WordPress hosts are WP Engine, SiteGround, Bluehost, Liquid Web, and DreamHost. Out of those, SiteGround does shared services. They also do dedicated and VPS. So I've never tried their managed WordPress hosting. I don't have a recommendation there. But if you notice there, which I thought was kind of interesting, all of them except for Bluehost offers a free domain. Bluehost is really trying to sell itself, isn't it? Managed WordPress hosting is about just managing your WordPress. None of that other stuff matters. So that should be no, that should be yes, and that definitely should be yes, staging. So don't even think about going on managed WordPress hosting that doesn't give you staging. It's not worth it. DreamHost is called DreamPress, I think. I don't recommend it. I've been on DreamHost too. I used to like their interface, but I've gotten to the point where I'm tired of trying to figure out everybody's version of cPanel. And I either just want to have cPanel or I don't want to have it at all, and I just want to have a simple interface. And I didn't include a slide on it in here, but I'm looking at Flywheel because I use Local, which is their local. Local is like a way that you can run and build websites locally. And it's really it's very slick. It's especially for the Mac. I think it's on WordPress, on Windows too. I don't know for sure. It might be. But it's a very clean interface. It allows you to easily spin up a WordPress site locally and work on it and test things. Well, their integration with their hosting platform is seamless. It's like, okay, log into the hosting company. Okay, here's your sites out here. Or you don't have a WordPress site. Would you like to take one locally and push it up here? Okay, yeah, boom. You want to copy that one down? Sure, boom. You want to stage? Sure, boom. One click, one click, one click. They have free migrations, no matter the size of the website. They will do free migrations. And you don't have to pay until you say yes. Flywheel.com.
When you're doing this staging, when you're creating the copy, where are you creating that from? Are you creating it from the WordPress? Or?
No, you're creating it from the live website. So like your live WordPress website that you've got customers coming to and looking at. Excuse me. When you click a staging copy, what it's doing is it's making an instant snapshot of the database and the files that are on your live site, but they're over here and they're protected. And they'll give you a login that is kind of like it's like one of those blockers where you've ever had a login where you've had to like put in a username and password or something. They'll give you one of those so that no one from the web can get into it, and then you'll be able to log right into it. It'll have like a different name. It'll probably be like, what's your name again? Chris. It'll be chrisrealty.flywheel.com or chrisrealty.wpengine.com, and you'll log right into that. You can test everything, make sure it all works. The whole nice thing about one-click staging and these managed WordPress hosts is they handle all that weird domain name changes and all those name changes that have to happen inside WordPress and everywhere else. It just happens. And that's awesome because you don't have to worry about that. But yeah, that's what it does. It does a snapshot. You can log in, test things, upgrade software, and you say, okay, I'm good with this now. Click a button, and it pushes your staging directly over the top of your production.
All right. So you're going into the hosting site.
Yeah, everything's always live. The nice thing about Flywheel is, like I said, you can copy that staging copy down locally to your local copy, and then work down here, and then also easily copy it back. The problem is, like all of that being able to easily copy a website from your local machine to the server or from one server to another server is tedious and complicated. And there's a lot of domain naming in between that is really complicated because you're like suddenly on charlesarnold.com and suddenly you're over here at charlesarnold.wpengine.com, and you've got to make this site go from here to here, and then you've got to change all the names and everything else. Well, WP Engine has a migration tool. It's a plugin that they run on your WP Engine staging copy and on your live copy, and it will sync the sites back and forth. Flywheel does the migrations for you. They will pull a multi-site site out of a multi-site. They'll pull the whole multi-site over. They'll do any of that stuff. So, and they do it for free, whereas WP Engine will charge you for that. So.
How about HTTPS when you want to make copies of HTTPS and then your copy has the warning,
That's where really simple SSL comes in. It'll go through your entire WordPress site and fix most of that, and immediately identify all of the places where your
on your copy.
your copy or whatever will be, like where your style sheets are pointing the wrong way, and you can go in and fix them. So, end users, this is you folks that care about this stuff. Things to be aware of: maintain ownership of your own domain. Do not let the person that you're paying to do your website own your domain. That is the stupidest thing in the world you could ever do. It's like, here, my name is Jim True. You can have me. I'm going. It's like, just here. I can't tell you how many times, as a web developer who is very good at hostile takeovers, how many times I've had to go out for clients who either their website developer has disappeared and they don't own the domain, they don't own the hosting, and I've had to help them get all of it back. It's ugly, it's not fun, it's tedious, it's incredibly hard to do nowadays in the days of identity theft. For businesses, it's a little easier because you've got the level of stuff that you have to do is like, you've got to show the invoices with the canceled checks, with everything of where you pay the invoices. You've got to show your business name, your LLC recommendations, your incorporation, all of that stuff to the hosting company just to get the domain name back. It's not easy. Usually on most of them, I end up having to barrage the bad developer until they give it back. And it's not pleasant. But I've done it. Make sure you know who your web server host is and that you can talk to them yourself. It's okay if you're using a web developer who does reselling. They should tell you who the host is. There's no reason they can't tell you who the host is. You should know who the host is, and you should be able to talk to them for support. Beware mom and pop hosting or developers who will host you. What happens if they win the lottery or they get hit by the bus? What happens to their business at that point? What happens to your website at that point? A lot of people will do this. I mean, I'm fully okay with local web developers. I don't know if you guys do reselling. I hope I'm not stepping on that, but it's just, you gotta. I've ran into too many people that honestly were hosting websites out of their garage on their servers in their garage. Or they had a good business where they had a really good, digital Wi-Fi connection or a really good digital connection to the internet, or what's that other one? I can't remember what the one is that everyone's so hip on. The high-speed internet, blah.
ESL.
What was that?
ESL.
Better than that. It was big back in the 80s and stuff, that where they required you to have that hard line into the internet or whatever. But anyway. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. T1, there you go, thank you. Yeah, people that just happen to have a T1 in their home and were doing web hosting out of their house and thought they could make a living out of it. Yeah, no, don't go with those. Don't go with those. Final note, you should be able to quit your web developer, and you, at any time, and you shouldn't lose your website just because that happens. That should be in your contract. I can quit you and you can quit me at any point in time, and I don't lose ownership of my website, I don't lose ownership of my domain. Now, it's another story if you don't pay your bills. But if you're paying your bills and stuff like that, and you're paying your bills to your hosting company, there's no reason that you cannot keep ownership of your site. Okay? Developers, things to beware. You should be able to get to the server logs. Sorry. I have a really bad cough this week. You should be able to get to the server logs without having to write an act of Congress at your web hosting company just to get to them. Denial of service attacks and other bad people throwing viruses and malware are just out there, and you shouldn't be charged when something outside your control happens. Jen was telling me about one today where she was working with a hosting company, and the client, based on Google Analytics, was not getting these hits, and the hosting company was going to charge them for the hits. It was a denial of service attack. It happened. They found out about it 2 days later, or really found out about it 2 days later, but that's not your fault. That is something outside your control. And that should be inside the contract. You should be able to get to the logs. And that's pretty much it. It's like if I've got my Google Analytics over here, and I've got your server logs over here, and your server logs are showing 5,000 hits, and my Google Analytics are showing 50, there's a problem over here. It's that simple. Okay? Yeah, during questions, I'll get one during questions. Backups. You should have control over them and be able to initiate restores. I don't like hosts that require me to contact them to do a backup or require me to contact them to do a restore. I want to have control over that. Because I do my upgrades at 2 o'clock in the morning. I do my upgrades on Saturday morning at 5 o'clock. I don't know. That's mine. Beware the upsell and beware the, well, we fixed it, but don't know what was wrong. Ask for explanations when there's downtime. Ask for explanations when you have a problem with your hosting company. It's good stuff. Questions? And I'll take that cough drop now. Thank you. All right, questions? Oh, come on.
Go Daddy.
He raised his hand first. You just went GoDaddy. Okay.
Would you recommend, there's these like backup plugins such as the Updraft Plus. If you're using something like that, would you still do the backups through the hosting?
It depends if the hosting company does one-click backups or one-click restores. It's so much easier at the host to click a button and get a backup and click a button and restore back over what you just did.
So if you have that, then you wouldn't have the Updraft Plus?
No. I have Backup Buddy as a backup to backup. Because I have some hosts that are not on hosts that I care for, so I have Backup Buddy. I don't trust doing restore of Backup Buddy over the top of their site, not at all. It's just there for my own, oh dear God, we lost the host. We're going to have to rebuild her. Okay, now we can finally move hosting companies. Thank you. That's what they're there for me. So, yeah.
What are the pros and cons of
GoDaddy? Most of GoDaddy is community pool. It's shared hosting. And because they are so big, and because they've done so much marketing and pushed so much stuff, everybody's on them. It's the first website host everybody thinks of. What are some other cons?
Well, I heard a story from Allison a few years ago. She said that she logged into her client's website that was hosted on GoDaddy, and voila, she was in somebody else's account.
Wow.
That's how sloppy they may have a better reputation now, but they used to have a very sloppy reputation.
If I'm going to go by, I did it for my sister. I put her on GoDaddy, and I instantly regretted it a year later.
Yeah, terrible navigation.
Yeah.
Get back
Oh.
do anything on the development.
They're so hard to figure out their.
It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
We use old servers sometimes for older websites,
Yes.
and then, trying to put a WordPress site on an old server can be a problem.
Right. Yeah. They use whatever hardware they can find.
They don't have live chat either.
Yes, they do.
They do?
Yeah, they do. It may not be instant. It's
come like recently?
it's fairly good, but I'm going to tell you a story right now. I did one twice with billing. I contacted their live chat 3 times on billing, and did I ever get credit back for one? As a matter of fact, I know I didn't. I actually told me they had credited something and they never did. So that's the kind of stuff I can't stand.
And they have a bad reputation for your site will get hacked because they're in that crowded space.
Yeah, because they're in a shared space. Now, granted, hacking on web servers, most of the time that people have problems with malware, it's because the client who is logging into the site to edit the content is the one that has the issue. It's very rare that you're going to get hacked from something out there. It's more than likely it's coming from the person logging into the site with their WordPress browser or their regular browser or their Windows browser. They've got a virus or a key snatcher or key grabber or whatever. It's snagging the passwords they've logged into their WordPress site that you're managing, and all of a sudden the person's gotten hacked, and they're like, whole swaths of like pieces of their content has been replaced with erectile dysfunction ads, and that's just kind of what happens. And every single time it's happened that I've ever had a client site that's been hacked, it's always the client who has a virus on their local computer.
You've been talking around circles about one thing, the same thing, time.
Time?
The amount of time it takes to access the site. That is what Google looks at.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Google, fortunately.
Yeah.
Search engines look at the time.
Yeah.
And they look at the words, I'm in a bunch of classes last ago. But I chose SiteGraph last week to move stuff over there.
Yeah.
Because they're pretty damn bad.
Well, if you look at that those two articles on the best WordPress hosting,
Right.
the one reason I do actually like both of those articles is because they give two really good report cards, both in two different directions, on the technical details about the hosting. And they give a full breakdown, and they give like a letter grade. And when I was looking at them, I was like, I was laughing my head off, because it was like they were C's on some of these big hosts that keep getting their big names up there. And they had number one. And the host that I would have recommended, but the A was like further down, and I'm not going why, because of cost. And sometimes cost matters. If you want the A's and you want that good uptime and you want that speed, and a lot of that sometimes is your site though, too.
Well, I'm not talking about the site time.
Right.
I'm talking about the response time.
Yes, the response time from their hosting company needs to not be where the lag.
Yeah. And I was hoping to get an answer. VPS is fast, no question about that.
Right.
But cloud hosting is less expensive and faster.
It can be, yes.
And I'm trying to learn about cloud hosting.
It's.
And I can't.
I honestly, it'd be one of those kind of things I'd have to do a Google search on myself. So I don't have that much experience with it. We use Cloud DNS. We always have Cloudflare, because it caches a site and makes a copy of it at each of their Cloudflare locations. And, we've had our site go down and then had to back up to the caching. But with Cloudflare, what's nice is you can go in and you can say, okay, clear that copy or get a new copy, and it'll just and do it, So it all depends on what you need. Most of our stuff that we do is content-based. So the content only changes when, someone posts a new forum post and stuff like that. So that kind of stuff doesn't bother me. But with an e-commerce site, it matters. So.
I've got a question for you that can be drive in the direction. When you say you're looking at cloud hosting, what questions are you asking?
I can't answer that because I can't find the place to ask questions to learn about it. I want to know what I have to do and why is it what is cloud?
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to be in 2 weeks. We're going to be back here again for our Ask Us Anything project and crowdsourcing, answer session. We'll try to find out something prior to that.
Well, I was going to say, I was going to point you, just to let you know, look at the big players in cloud hosting and ask them, go in their demos, play with their demos and things like that, because they'll have that high level information that will give you an overview. And then from there, you could probably drive down into more details.
Right.
Do you know any of the big players in cloud hosting?
Salesforce, from an e-commerce perspective, Salesforce is huge. Salesforce has gone off in so many tentacles. You have that. Then you have no, Amazon is not cloud host.
They do though. They're what do you call it? At AWS, they do the.
But it's Sales, SALE Force, FORCE. I believe.
Rackspace, aren't they?
Rackspace.
Yeah. So once you put in Salesforce, everybody else who is a competitor of Salesforce
will be up in the Google ads.
Yeah. And I think that would help put you on a path toward understanding it from a big, because they have demos and because they want the big people. And you can see it in the company I work for, we're on a cloud hosting, so we're on Salesforce.
Okay.
And Salesforce started out as mainly CRM.
Yeah.
And now, now they've gone and they spread like now.
Well, I knew they were doing like the big cloud apps and stuff.
So, oh yeah. And they bought Demandware, which took them a direction, so they started getting into B2C web hosting, and then now they purchased a company, I don't even know the name of it yet. It's going to allow them to do B2B platform hosting, and then they're doing Einstein is getting ready to roll out on their platform, which is going to totally change the way that they do search, AI-driven search and things like that. So I would say, yes. So I would say, look at the big players, get the baseline information, and then you can drive down from there.
Very cool. Thank you. Yeah, very much. Yeah.
Now, WordPress does hosting as well, right?
They have WordPress.com, but that's completely different than WordPress.org.
Is it owned by the same umbrella organization?
No. WordPress.com is a completely separate product from their WordPress.org, where you take care of the hosting. If you do a WordPress.com website, yes, you can register a domain name, but then you're pointing it at their hosting company running WordPress.com, which is pretty much like a self-packaged thing. It's their managed WordPress hosting, but it's not the same thing. It's not the same thing about a lot of what we're talking about, where you have complete control of your website.
Well, but it's part of the WordPress organization?
It's not part of WordPress.org. It's part of the WordPress.com, which is owned by Automatic. It is a product they offer.
Okay, so
it's kind of like their answer to Wix or Squarespace. Would be how I would know.
The most, I'm just going to use the word debilitating thing about WordPress.com. If you really just wanted to have a blog where you sat and talked about what your cat ate for breakfast every day,
it's awesome.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
It's free, but you cannot monetize.
Nope.
If they want to put ads on the sidebar of Little Kitty's blog, they can, and you can't say anything about it, and you don't have any control over what happens.
Now, if you pay for the paid version of WordPress.com, basically anything that you want special on your WordPress.com website, you're going to pay for. You're going to pay to have your domain name pointing to it. You're going to pay to have no ads. You're going to pay to have a special plugin that you might want. You're going to pay to have a special theme that you want.
It's a web tour.
Yeah, it's basically, it's Automatic's upsell is what it comes down to.
So the reason they don't have any of those lists is
it doesn't count for this kind of stuff.
Right.
I will never ever recommend WordPress.com to anyone unless all they're doing is blogging and they want something free.
And it's confusing to a newbie because it sounds like it should be the opposite. Right?
I know, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
.org sounds like it should be,
.org means that it's actually installing the software on your server host. That's confusing to a lot of people too, because WordPress.com is running on a host, but it's like, to me, it's honestly more like having a Facebook page on Facebook. That's what WordPress.com reminds me of. It's like having a Facebook page on Facebook. Yes, that's your Facebook page and you own it, but really Facebook owns it. If they suddenly decide that this isn't profitable to them anymore, they'll kill it and walk away. WordPress.org, the open source software, is owned by the community of WordPress developers. If Automatic suddenly gets a hair up their butt and says, you know what? We're done with WordPress.org. Yeah, we'll let you have it. There are probably 1,000 million developers out there that will probably raise their hands and go, hallelujah, and say, finally. Yeah. Because that company will no longer be in control of the drive and direction of that product. Right now, they are. And it's prevented a lot of stuff from happening that should be happening. So.
Isn't it called hosted platform when everything is together like that?
Yeah, I think that's what that's called, is a hosted platform, like Facebook and Wix and Squarespace. Yeah. I mean, you're never going to get ridiculously fast uptime from Wix or Squarespace. I can't imagine you would. But I don't know. It's an odd one. Good question, though. More questions?
You go to WP Beginner and through the menus, go through all that, find all that information.
Yeah, they basically, those articles I linked, they have a little wizard quiz at the front, at the very top, but if you just keep on going down, they break down why they gave the pros and cons for each of those top rated ones, and then they really go into detail at the lower part of that article, which is what I was telling him about, was with the support cards on uptime, server connectivity, everything. They're really good about that, and especially for the managed ones. I didn't include Flywheel in here because I want to test them out first, but I have a feeling that's the direction I'm going to go because I'm tired of dealing with all the technical crap and I don't want to deal with it anymore. I'm tired of dealing with databases. I deal with databases all day long with my work and what I do. I don't want to deal with it with my websites. I don't want to deal with the file transfers. I want to have a one-click copy back and forth. I'm lazy, 52. So, any other questions?
It only gets worse, Jim.
Huh?
It only gets worse.
Oh, I know. Any more questions? You guys all happy? Okay.
I have a question about the future.
Go ahead, yes.
Do we have any plans coming up for like in-depth talk about site security?
We can. Basically, yeah. We can talk about. Let's get through with the video part. We can have some discussion. What time is it anyway?
It is 5 of 8.
5 of 8. Okay, we're good. We got a little bit more time. Not much. Okay. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. And if you're interested in going to find out more about Lucas the Spider, I've got his little YouTube address there. Thank him as well. You've just watched a recorded presentation from our WordPress St. Petersburg Meetup. We meet twice a month on the first and third Thursdays of the month in downtown St. Pete at the Tech Garage. If you've enjoyed this presentation and found it useful, please give it a thumbs up in YouTube, and be sure to subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to be notified when new videos are added. You can find out more about WordPress St. Petersburg at our website at tampabaywp.org and at our Meetup site at meetup.com WordPress St. Petersburg. Thanks.